Now that we've got all our curves drawn out and rebuilt and cut and detached, let's go ahead and use those to build out some NURBS geometry for the base of our car. So here are our curves. Now, one thing to be aware of, this is something that you don't have to do, but you could. I'm going to just grab these two guys. And you can see where our points meet up. Now, just imagine that there are isoparms going down from each of these CVs. One thing you could do, if these are off by a certain amount, and maybe you want, for aesthetically, you want it to be a straighter line or something, you can go in there, and if I select my translate tool options here, if you want to move those points along the normal, and you just want to tweak those a little bit closer to these guys up here, just to create a straighter line. I'm not going to go through that, but if that's something you want to do, it's simple to do. Just be aware of which axis you're moving it on. You just want to move it along that curve, okay, and just a little bit, just to get those lines nice and straight. Because this curve right here creates a little bit of an issue, and it could be a little bit of a problem just to get a nice straight line. So that's just something to be aware of. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is use these first three lines that we did here. This belt line we drew across here, and this character line we have on the side, and then we have this intermediate one here. We're going to use these to create a base for our side going from the front all the way back to the back here. So I'm just going to select these in order from the inside to the outside. All three of those, shift select them. I'm going to go up to under surfaces in the surfaces menu, and I'm going to go into my loft options, and I just want to do a uniform loft with these settings, cubic, and then the section spans are how many spans it's going to put between there, and I just want to do one. You can always add some more later, and we want to output that as a NURB surface, of course, so I'm going to just loft that, see how that looks. So you can see now, basically wherever there was a CV, now there is an isoparm here on this new surface. Okay, so it's kind of just taken those and connected each corresponding CV along that curve and created a new surface for us. All right, let's go ahead and build out this bottom surface while we have it here. And this is going to bring up an issue that you're going to have to be aware of when you're doing these as well. Now we went through and made sure that we had the same parameterization, that is the same number of spans on each of these. So if we look at this guy here, he's 6 and this guy's 6, but if you take another closer look at these, you're going to see we're going to have a problem here. I'm going to just shift select in, look at these vertices. You can see these hollow boxes up here at the top. That's telling you where the beginning of that curve is. Okay, that's up at the top on this side. Now let's look and see over here at our CVs. Well, on this side it's down at the bottom. So if we try to kind of combine these curves in any way, it's going to try to take the top and sort of connect it to the bottom. So if we try to connect these or loft them or anything, they'd be flipped around. So we need to make sure that our beginning points of our curves are at the same on the same sides. It goes for the top and the bottom as well. So if I shift select that, you can see that these are reversed as well. So we want to go in here, and we need to go in and reverse one of these. So on this top one, let's go ahead and reverse the bottom. And we can do that. It doesn't change the shape or anything. It just kind of switches the starting point to the other end. And we can do that under Edit Curves. And we just want to reverse curve direction. Okay. So now if I click on this guy, now his starting point's at the end, and that matches up nicely with the starting point of this guy up here. Now in this case, let's see. Let's go ahead and reverse. Let's reverse this guy. And now his starting point, oh, did it work? Don't think it worked for us. Let's reverse and check that. Okay, so now our starting points are down here. So this should work fairly well for us. Now for this, we're going to actually use something called a boundary. And I'm just going to grab this wheel arch curve here. I'm going to go around clockwise, selecting these curves till I got them all selected. And now I'm going to go up to surfaces and just do a boundary. And these are the options that we have for that. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. You can see that's created a nice surface for us between those curves. All right. So now we got these base pieces filled in. Let's go ahead and start looking at how we can complete this guy. All right, so we've got this curve here. So that can be an actual piece of geometry. That's a patch. Let's check those match up nicely. And those match up. So let's go ahead and try to do let's do another boundary on that guy. And we can tweak that. Looks good. And so now we need to create geometry through here somehow. So we need to actually pull out some curves from this guy. All right. Another thing we will need is we have these two curves, but if we just lofted between, it would go straight there. So we need it to follow this curve. So we need to somehow extract that curve. So if we have this NURB surface, it's really easy to go in and pull curves out of there, even curves that aren't part of that didn't exist before. These new isoparms that you see going across this way are basically curves that we can pull out, or we can pull out any curves along the surface. So what we want to do is find a curve. I'm going to just pull this isoparm, right-click isoparm, and I'm going to just pull that, and it's basically sliding this along the surface. And I'm going to just drop it right there. And that looks pretty good. So let's see. I might actually, yeah, let's go ahead and, well, let me take a look here. Let's go ahead and can say insert isoparm there if you want to. And that doesn't actually pull a curve off, that adds that resolution in there. And we'll look at how we can actually extract a curve here. If we didn't have this curve that we had built this guy with, you can go in here, pull this isoparm over, and wherever you want it, you could say somewhere in the middle, let's say, and you could go up to edit NURBS, and you could pull that curve off of there. It's actually under edit curves. You could say duplicate surface curve, and that's going to create a copy of that curve, which is just an isoparm on this surface that you could actually use for, let's grab it there, and I wanted to have my world translate here. So now you can see we have a new curve that's derived from this surface that we built, but it's just along this curvature. So now we could use that for something else. So in this case, we can use our original curve because it's what the surface was built off of. So once we're happy with how this surface looks, right now it's connected via the history to these curves. So anytime we move one of these curves, that surface is going to change with it. So if you have this surface built and you see something you need to tweak on your curves, you can go ahead and do that while you have your history on, and that should work just fine. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and delete my history. Now, as long as you have your curves, keep in mind that you can always recreate this surface. If something goes bad with this surface, you can always just blow it away and reloft it if you have your same curves, okay? So that's just a good thing to keep those around. All right, so in this case, I'm going to go in here, and I need to connect a curve between here. So I'm going to snap that to this curve. And let's go into side view here. And I'm just going to snap it up to here with maybe one in between. And just snap that along that curve. I'll just snap it right there. And I'll just pull it in a little bit. All right. And we'll just kind of match that up. Let's see what our parameterization is on that too. We actually bump that down. Let's see if we can rebuild that to a 1. Just so we don't have, we're not trying to match that curve up. That'll be better. All right, so now we need to do the same thing right over here under this new isoparm that we built here. So go into my side view once again, and let's find where we need to do that. There's the point we need to start at. So I'm going to snap that to my curve and just pop that, yep, pop that into the position there. And let's go ahead and rebuild that guy to 1. Let's check it out. Alright, so what that's basically doing is cutting that off so that now we're going to be able to make a nice piece of geometry between here and then fill in a nice piece of geometry back here, okay? Alright, so we still have this strip in here we need to worry about. It's cut off nicely at this end. Let's look at what's going on over on this side. Alright, so basically we're going to have this curve. It needs to get cut off right about here. Alright, this corner. So let's go ahead and do that in our side view. And let's do the same thing. I'm going to, in my curve tool, I'm going to snap that. I'm going to snap it right up there. Like so. And then I'm just going to rebuild it. Yeah, let's take a look at that. Okay. Now you can see that we have this curve's kind of going straight out here. I want to add a little bit of bump here. So what we can do is go in here and add an isoparm where we want that resolution to be. Now you can see that it's adding an isoparm all along this body. That's okay because it's not going to change that curvature. Alright, so I'm just going to go up to Insert Isoparm. And now I have that, I can grab maybe 1 or 2 of these points. And I just want to create a little bit of a bulge there. Right on the top of the fender there. Just so it's not going straight into it. Okay. Alright. Okay, so now we basically need some geometry between here and here, and all the way along this portion, and back here. Alright, so we've got these main parts here, so let's go ahead and tackle that in the next lesson. We'll also build off the trunk and this greenhouse part all across the top here, and the hood, and we'll fill in any of the areas that we haven't got to so far, okay? We'll take care of that in the next lesson.